Welcome to the Awakening to Abundance podcast. I'm your host, Athena. This podcast is more than a podcast, it's a transformative journey designed to help you awaken to your abundance. For you to discover what living the fullness of life means to you. As always, we're jumping right in with today's episode. I am just so freaking excited to have this conversation with you. I want you to share a little bit with our listeners where you started and then kind of the transition, the transformation that you've had to what you're doing now, the awakening to what you are doing.
Absolutely. I'm happy to go where this goes. I've always been interested in personal growth development, emotionally speaking. I grew up with a mother who had experienced a lot of trauma. And so, in her desire for me to be as emotionally healthy as I could, I kind of had a dysfunctional upbringing. I began therapy from a young age. And so I understood the importance of our emotions. And that piece was always a part of my life. Emotional work was always a part of my life. So fast forward, I ended up getting my bachelor's in interior design and had an interior design business for like 20 years, which I still love. And I think the piece that I loved most about that was my connections with people. I loved working with them, and I always got their stories. Like, it always went way past design. I always had the most amazing clients, and interior design and emotional transformation is a lot of the same thing. Like, it's very similar because you're doing it with a physical space, but you have people who have wants and desires, and they don't know certain things and they don't know how to get them. And so it was this natural transition when I hit an emotional low for myself and was introduced to a wonderful woman who was deep in shadow work. She was a spiritual and emotional growth facilitator, but her modality that she worked in was shadow work. And that was probably like a decade ago now. And so I began really focusing on my own personal journey in shadow work about a decade ago, personally, and then decided that I wanted to train in it. So I did. And then there came COVID. And so my trainers, everything we did, Zoom was around, but it wasn't like it was, once COVID came about. And so my trainers, we did everything personal in like week-long situations. And so I was just up to get my certification. I had like one more thing to do, and COVID hit and everything was shut down and my trainers weren't doing anything on Zoom. I had started my idea around my business and I was like, well, what do I do? Because my mindset at this point was very different. I was not in energetics like I am now, right? Like, I didn't understand so many things at that point. And so I just thought, like, what am I going to do? And I actually had a clairvoyant that I talked to, and she was like, I see conscious uncoupling somewhere in your future. And my husband and I had been having issues. My mom died in 2020 also. So this was like a huge impact on the trajectory of my life, of what I wanted to do, of my purpose. I actually, while there was the grief and all the different emotions that come with that, there was a liberation because I had a very meshed relationship with my mom. And so this was actually like, I got to, like, what do I want from my life? And I thought when she had said conscious uncoupling that it was like something I was supposed to look into for my husband and myself. And it was in ways. There was so much that I learned about how I was showing up in relationship that I hadn't looked at before. I had looked at how I had done things personally and in my life and, my own emotional growth work. But I had never really looked at it from a relationship standpoint. And once I started getting into that, I began to do the process with my mom as well, because when she passed, we had a lot of unfinished emotional business, so to call it. And so I was doing these things and thought I meant to get my certification in conscious uncoupling because it not only helped within my romantic relationship, but it actually helped me to find peace within the relationship with my mom. So I switched gears a little bit and took a step back from shadow work for a minute and really focused on growing my business on the foundation of conscious uncoupling, but also on the foundation of women being able to find freedom within themselves. So my business is called Sacred Freedom.
Okay, I want to pause you just there and ask about, because I feel like there are moments where we're doing some way of life and then there's a pause and a reflection, and then we pivot, especially in business, right? But in all of life, and then we pivot and we go into something else. And sometimes I think of these as mini awakenings because it's not necessarily like we're not in alignment with what we're currently doing, but there's just a slight awakening to a different possibility that could feel aligned if we look at it, right? If we're curious about it. And so I think it's really interesting that you were doing this shadow work and then that got paused by COVID. Then you also had the passing of your mother. And then you went to a clairvoyant who then said, you should check this out. And so when you heard that from the clairvoyant, what was the feeling? Because again, there's a moment that feels aligned before we step into that next step. We don't just hear things and we're like, oh, well, this person over here said this, and so I'm just going to go do it now, right? Like there's something more. And so I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And just to back up a few steps, when you say that, like the mini awakenings, like there was kind of like one after another at this juncture. Like my mom passed, there was the awakening. It wasn't mini. There was the awakening that like this was like the next part of my life. And I didn't know what that looked like, but I was very aware that I was awakened to like there was a next journey. So that was a big one. And loss can do that, whether it's death, divorce, change, whatever that looks like. That can be the catalyst into like the death of my mom was a big awakening. Then with the shadow work, when that detour in COVID, that was another awakening. Like I knew that something else was coming. And you're right. It's a feeling. Like it's a pull almost, a guidance that is not necessarily able to put into physical words, but that awakening was there. And then when the clairvoyant, when she said conscious uncoupling, there was like a mini awakening to that. There was like an alignment, like you shared to me of, I feel this. Like there's something that feels really right about that. And I didn't know. Like I had heard people made fun of conscious uncoupling with Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow, right? That was my knowledge of conscious uncoupling. When she said that, there was something that awoke in me that was like, oh, there's something that really resonates in that.
It was almost like between COVID and then the passing of your mother led you to knowing that something is going to happen, something is going to be different, something is going to change. And so you were in that question, and then that is what was the alignment that was saying this is the next step. And so I appreciate that because I think sometimes we can go through bigger awakenings or bigger moments of change, and sometimes associated with that is grief or suffering. And then we'll know that a change needs to occur, but then we're not really sure how in the heck is it going to happen. And it's okay to sit in that question and be a little bit confused and have all those emotions and know that you will eventually be led to what it is, even though you don't know what it is right now. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And just one of the other pieces I know that is within your work that is so important is the abundance piece of it. And there was such abundance around the guidance and direction amongst the awakenings. There was people who showed up that would either shut a door right? Like kind of the shadow work door was shut and it needed to be while I've reopened it. It needed to be shut at that time. And God, the divine, the universe gave me such a sense of peace around that, even though the ego part of me was pissed. Like, what am I supposed to do now? There was at that time also this deeper knowing that like there was more that I was meant to explore. So the abundance of guidance that I felt at that time, that was very real also. And like you said, it was such an unknown time in my business. I really just got the next step, but I felt, and looking back, I can see it, but I felt it also like the abundance of you are meant to step into healing work and I've got you. Like, just keep on doing this, like taking the next step.
So then you got into the conscious uncoupling world, and then you created your business, or your business is continuing, and you decided to call it Sacred Freedom.
I was actually walking my dogs one day and I like had known that I was creating a business. I was in my training of conscious coupling. And it was like, again, like this mini awakening and abundant download of it's sacred freedom. It's really meant to help women find the freedom within themselves and within their life. And that was such a direct reflection of me. It still is. Like, I remember Catherine Woodward Thomas, who's the author and creator of Conscious Uncoupling. She was like, just use your name. And so clearly I was like, it's sacred freedom because it needed to be more than just my name. I'm still discovering myself right now. But at that point, I was such in the early awakening of who I was becoming that I needed more than my name to be like my North Star of where I was going. So from there, I then went on to get my certification in Calling in the One. And again, another modality that I absolutely love. And it really is just so much about calling in yourself before you can really call in the love of your life. And it's a beautiful course. I started a podcast called the Sacred Journey podcast and really did those for a year and was going along and then felt this discontent. It was a discord. There was something that wasn't quite all that it needed to be. And so it wasn't that there was anything wrong. It was just that there was something a discord. And that lasted for what felt like a little while. I don't know that it actually was until I could find what that was. So it was like before the awakening, which I think is a also important time to talk about.
Yeah, I love this. I'm like, I don't want to ask a question because I feel like it's right there.
Because it's a really uncomfortable place to be. It's like you had this awakening and then you're in it, you're living it, right? Which again, to just talk about the other beautiful piece of your work, which is manifestation. It's just how that works. You get your manifestation. And then as we're always evolving and being pulled forward, then you find that there's something else that you're desiring. And I'm going to be really transparent. I'm learning more now to be in that in-between period, but like I can get really frustrated, especially in my business, because I have so much creativity and so much inspiration and want so much that when I can't see it, I can get really frustrated.
And when you say you can't see it, do you mean you can't see it playing out pictured, or you can't see it envisioning?
I can't see it envisioning, so I can feel it. I can feel that there's something there, like the next thing. I can feel it in my body, but like I don't have the vision because I can also generally see things. I can see how it's supposed to look at a certain point, and so I could feel it, but I couldn't see it. I didn't know the next step. I wasn't being given the next step, and so I was frustrated because I was feeling like I wasn't fully embodying the work that I was supposed to be embodying. But I didn't know what the work that I was supposed to be embodying fully looked like. or even looked like. I can't even say fully. There was glimpses, but I wasn't getting enough of a picture to take the next step. And I wasn't feeling guidance around the next step.
Ooh, okay. So I'm going to pause there. It's so interesting, actually, between this moment that we're talking about now in the discord feelings and then the awakenings that occurred from things you couldn't control, right? So COVID happened, you couldn't control that. And then your mother passing, you can't control that. And then there is an awakening that comes out of that. But here we are now at this other place where it feels like, okay, well, I did take the guidance and I did do the conscious uncoupling and I did do the calling in the one, but yet there's still now something, just as you said, I have the manifestation of these things and that's great. That's great. But also, as I am expanding and holding even more possibilities and looking at other possibilities, I know that there's a next manifestation. There's a next level. There's a next showing up state of being. And so you you said something like it maybe felt longer than it actually was. So then tell me a bit about that.
Yes. So I think, and thank you for reflecting that back to me, because I think the other piece of that was that I was, which is so important, and I'm so honored to carry forward Catherine Woodward Thomas's work, because I truly just think she is an icon in the emotional growth arena. But it wasn't mine. Like, it wasn't my work. And I knew that my purpose was to create my own work, to create my own piece of my journey, my part of bringing sacred freedom, literally sacred freedom, to other people. So I think that was the feeling, but I couldn't see the direction because I had like different avenues that I could see it, but I didn't feel really connected to what that was. Even when you and I first met and I was certified in conscious uncoupling, I had still felt like there was more because that wasn't my work, but it wasn't like an overtaking sense of it yet. And so that, I think that discord continued, and there was a point where I was okay with the discord, knowing that more would come. But then I got to the point where I wanted that more now. Like the manifestation, I want it now. And so I think that it was actually only maybe 6 months between when it really started feeling heavy and to where I like rebranded. But it probably felt like a few years because it had been stirring within me. And 6 months might even feel like a long time. But I think from when I really got the clear vision, well, gosh, having said that, it may have only been like 3 months of actually like knowing that I was going to rebrand. Like once my website and my photo shoot and my photos, like that might have been a total of 6 months. But like seeing it and then making the start of it may have only been 3 months. But because it took what felt like forever to get to what was mine, and mine is still developing. I mean, it's developing every day. But I think that when I first had the vision of, oh, this is the direction that I'm supposed to go, it felt like that took forever.
I think everyone is going to probably be asking themselves, okay, well, then how did you figure it out? Like, yes, I'm right there with you, Elizabeth. Like, I want this manifestation. I would like to do this. I know that there's more for me, but like, I can't seem to align to what the fuck it is, right? So how did you move into that space? Thank you for listening to this podcast episode and being part of this community. I want to hear from you. Did something resonate with you in this episode? Are you experiencing awakenings or synchronicities in your life? Email me at podcast@abundancewithathena.com or DM me on Instagram at abundancewithathena and share with me your stories. And until next time, Keep awakening to the abundance that's always within you.